If you've been paying attention, you've probably noticed that there's been a severe tone shift in the messaging and attack ads from the Democrats before and after Joe Biden stepped down and Kamala Harris became the front runner for the Democratic presidential candidate. Yeah, you've seen the "you're weird" bit. Joe Biden didn't really do attack ads. I'm really sorry he did. Like, literally, this is the guy who, in his first debate with Trump, just, God, like 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago now, however long ago it was, it feels like a lifetime, he said he has the morals of an alley cat. He's talking about, again, a fascist person with dictatorial intent who said he would violate the Constitution, friend of Epstein, and a convicted rapist. And Biden was so proud of the morals of an alley cat bit that his Twitter account was repeating it multiple times afterwards. We're talking about like either a complete unwillingness or complete inability to engage in any kind of like name calling. And now the dynamic has shifted massively. First of all, Kamala Harris is just openly calling Trump fascist dictator, convicted rapist, whatever else. Like, Kamala Harris is very comfortable openly attacking him, which is fantastic. Additionally, take a look at this. You've probably seen this, right? But like, look at the tone, man. This is just... mwah.
Us MAGA Republicans banned abortion, but that's just the start.
That's just the start. If Trump gets elected, we want the government involved in all aspects of your sex life.
Way more involved.
Way more involved.
When you have sexual intercourse, it should be illegal to use contraception. No pills, no condoms.
Your genitals are reserved for procreation.
If you freeze 12 eggs, you should be required to have 12 babies.
Remember how I said before that the Democrats need to like unlock and level up and just start calling their opponents stupid and ugly and crazy? Am I right or am I right, folks? The problem with people who might kind of reflexively find this distasteful is, here are a few things. First of all, the median voter is an idiot and we need to win. Sorry. Number two, this is what they're actually like, man. They are really weird. They're incredibly weird. You don't find normal MAGA types. They're freaks. They're insane. You can barely talk politics on Twitter without these creepy weirdos every time in your mentions replying, talking about genitals and like the rape and posting Wojaks of like crudely drawn trans caricatures hanging themselves. They're socially maladjusted losers. This is very much J.D. Vance-pilled, you know? You've got like two archetypes of freak and weirdo. You have socially maladjusted poll user who genuinely thinks that you can make arguments with Wojaks, like without a hint of irony. And then you've got these like child rapist pastor looking who are like the 40 and up non-millennial demographic of Republicans who are legitimately insanely creepy. Like actually really weird, you know? And we don't have any problem at all addressing this when we do it through like broader culture. I recently saw Deadpool 2 because I'm going to see Deadpool 3 soon, so I wanted to see Deadpool 2. Not a great movie, by the way, but the end villain of Deadpool 2 basically is like creepy conversion therapy pedophile. They get called pedophile like 50 times. God, everything in The Boys. We have no problem acknowledging this central fact in media, but they struggle with it from the political front. And that fact is, conservatives are freaks. And this is incredibly important messaging for a few reasons. Let's just finish the ad, though.
Or else you're a serial killer. And I'm definitely not a serial killer.
Are you?
My son monitors my porn usage to make sure I'm not self-pleasuring.
Just like Speaker
Oh, by the way. Oh, yeah, wait. Yeah, they say it.
of the House Mike Johnson. That's true.
That's true. You can look it up. That is true. Mike Johnson and Mike Johnson's son both monitor each other's internet use for porn so that they can both be like spirit guides to each other. That's not a joke. That's real. That's Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, one of the most powerful people in the country. That's real. These are the people who will say that you're a groomer if you allow your child, your son or whatever, to like wear a dress if they want to. And then they'll be like looking up each other's Pornhub search history to see whether or not they've sinned. Like this is the level that we're on, and more attention needs to be drawn to it.
You can look it up.
Don't you think that's normal?
normal? Yeah, I do.
It's normal for your son to do that.
You should have a family member monitor your porn use too.
Because pleasuring yourself is very, very naughty.
I'm voting in November.
I'm voting in November. We're all voting in November. Are you?
Because what happens in your bedroom is up to me.
Is up to me and my son. Also, mouth stuff is a sin.
Now, I don't know if you've been paying much attention to like the discourse, but this "they're weird" line of argumentation against Republicans has been really effective and has energized the out of people. I've seen it on Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. People are going crazy with it. And there are a few reasons for this. First of all, it gets tiring over and over again to point out that your opposition is like monstrous dictatorial fascists when they are openly that thing. You know, you point at a Nazi and you're like, you're a Nazi. And they're like, yeah, like it doesn't really land with much. But the main thing conservatives cannot stand is being called abnormal because they disingenuously front the idea that they're representative of normalcy. Remember? The whole conservative culture war line, their whole talking point is that these freaks and degenerates and weirdos and dysgenic child, I was going to say child porn watching. I guess that's true in both cases for Mike Johnson, I assume, watching this behavior, that's normal. And then abnormal is someone being like, you know, yeah, sometimes people are gay or trans, you know, that's just historical reality. That's fact. And that's life, you know, no biggie. Like that's the freak behavior. They're the normal ones. They can't stand being called abnormal because they want to be or want to pretend to be the normal ones. Vivek responded to this, which I thought was incredibly funny because like in between the zillions of insults they throw out constantly, they're like, this whole "they're weird" argument for the Democrats is dumb and juvenile. This is a presidential election, not a high school prom queen contest. I love to complain that the opposition throws out too many juvenile insults and then cast my vote for Donald Trump. They can't stand it. And he shows that it's like getting their goat, you know? Oh yeah, big ass shoes. I have no explanation for this one, guys. What the This is like a photo shoot. How do you walk in those? What the You're gonna get like a sore in the back of your heel, man. What are you doing? Honk honk. Governor Walz calling them weird and fascist. Well, Governor Walz is pretty base generally, yeah.
So it isn't much else. Don't give them the power. Look, are they a threat to democracy? Yes. Are they going to take our rights away? Yes. Are they going to put people's lives in danger? Yes. Are they going to endanger the planet by not dealing with climate change? Yes. They're going.
I don't want to oversell this point because I unironically have like 50 examples that I could think of people leaning into this. The main reason why this works, and this sounds a little bit, I don't know, cruel or maybe a little bit like of a generalization, but it's true. People like being thought of as scary. Everyone does. From Trump supporters to neocons to neoliberals to leftists, everyone enjoys hearing narratives where the people they don't like fear them. Everyone does. Generally speaking, the more evil you are, the more you like it. The more dictatorial or authoritarian you are. This is the reason why, for the most part, people on the left kind of like the narrative like, yeah, I'm a scary trans here to trans your son, or yeah, I'm like a scary lefty here to like appropriate your wealth, girl, you know? They like being framed in that way because it makes them feel powerful. And then you have the crazy campus, like so-called far left red fascists where they like own every bad thing Stalin or Mao did, but think it's cool, actually. Nazis are like this too. This is one of the reasons why, and the best work you're going to find on this subject by far is Lindsay Ellis's video on Mel Brooks. That's the best you're going to find on this, about satire and its relationship to fascism. You know, you should watch that video if you haven't, or Lindsay Ellis in general. The fascist will appropriate any imagery that makes them seem scary and cool. If you make a movie where the Nazis are evil, inhuman automatons committing genocide for no real good reason, they'll own that because it makes them look cool. They like being the tyrants. They like being the evil one. They like being the monstrous Iron Men, you know? They love that shit. What they can't stand is being made fun of, which is why fascists appropriate American History X, but not the producers or Jojo Rabbit. Obligatory Jojo Rabbit mention. I still think Jojo Rabbit is maybe the best piece of anti-fascist art, or mainstream anti-fascist art, of the past decade. Because it shows that making light of fascists and making light of fascism are two completely different things. Mocking fascists is critical because they hate it. They hate it. And it makes them act more like freaks than they were previously. It brings out the worst of the worst in them. You know, it exacerbates the negative elements of their behavior. Is Wolfenstein good? I haven't played the newer Wolfenstein games, but my understanding is that in between the shooting galleries, most of the direct one-on-one scenes where you engage with the Nazis makes them look like weird freaks. They aren't like cool, stern, iron commanders who are like badass and then you defeat them. They're actually like weird, like, isn't there a scene where Hitler's like like he's like coughing and freaking out, you know, where's my asthma medicine, like that kind of thing. They're pathetic, basically, which is, by the way, more historically accurate. He shitted himself? Okay, gotcha. Which is more historically accurate than depicting them as those like steely, you know, supermen or whatever. That's the propaganda they made for themselves. If you know anything about Nazi propaganda that they made about themselves, they would frequently depict themselves as those monsters, you know? They may not have saw it that way, but from our perspective, in a lot of ways, it's indistinguishable from the way people depict Nazis when they're trying to make them out to be the villain. You make them big and cool and scary, Nazis love that shit, you know? They love that shit. So stop it. Nobody in America today is going to be convinced to move away from the right wing because they hear about how Donald Trump is mean and evil. Because from the perspective of a well-meaning person who genuinely doesn't understand how bad the policies they support are, let's say you have a Republican who genuinely thinks that America is being torn apart by undocumented immigrants and Donald Trump's going to fix that problem. And you hear a leftist say something like, Trump's evil, he's a fascist, he's going to deport all these Mexicans. First of all, your thought in your head is, he's not going to deport Mexicans, he's deporting criminals, illegal immigrants. They're not criminals, by the way. I'm saying what he's thinking, okay? Wow, you think we're so scary for saving America from criminals? Yeah, you know, we're real scary. Look at us, big scary Republicans saving America from its own destruction, from the Democrats importing undocumented immigrants in. If you give them that narrative, you're only going to help them entrench themselves further in that position because they don't mind seeing themselves as the like stern doer of justice. This doesn't work if you mock them. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. The red pill movement got destroyed by H-bomb pointing out how weird they are and has never recovered. I have never seen, not once, a far-right figure experience a downfall because people were sternly and sincerely talking about how bad they are. Andrew Tate was at his height when everyone was like, he's really bad, he's a misogynist, he's ruining the minds of young men. And right now, at his nadir, where he has no one takes him seriously and he's just posting the N-word on Twitter, everyone just mocks him. The turning point in Andrew Tate's perception, 100%, was that Wojak of him. He got arrested, support for him swelled even further. There was a picture of him, he looked like silly in the picture, someone posted a Wojak of it, and history was made. With his stupid, like, dumb, chinless face. You know what I'm talking about, right? If you look up Andrew Tate Wojak, it's probably the number one. Everyone knows the Andrew Tate Wojak, you know? This one. This right here. This was what changed public perception of Andrew Tate. Because young men are not going to stop listening to him because they hear that he's, like, evil and bad. Find me on earth a single 14-year-old boy who stops listening to a daredevil, truth-telling, you know, maverick like Andrew Tate because they hear he's evil and bad. Have you ever heard of a 14-year-old boy who stopped on account of that? No. But they will stop if he's cringe. And that's all it takes. That's all it takes. Call the opposition evil and bad when you're making arguments, like structured arguments. But when you're engaging in rhetoric, political banting back and forth, do you think a campaign ad is a real argument? Do you think that if you've got a 30-second slot to fill in a television ad, you're putting within that ad an argument? Do you think 30 seconds is enough for a structured argument? No. It's just rhetoric, talking points. And if you want rhetoric and talking points, you can't defer back to a simplified version of the argument. An ineffective, simplified, moralizing, high-horsing version of the argument. You have to lean into the rhetoric, and that means calling them ugly weirdos, you know? You have to. You have to dunk. How has Elon Musk survived then? I would argue that to a large extent, he kind of hasn't. His public perception is in the toilet compared to how it used to be, and it has been for a while. He's still powerful because he's one of the wealthiest men on earth, and he single-handedly owns Twitter. But that's not like a PR thing. That's just like his power isn't just his public perception. His power is that he literally has power, you know? But again, what do you think has been more effective in the downturn of Elon Musk's perception? People saying, you know, he's evil, he's bad, he supports these bad things, or people mocking him for being an incredibly cringe weirdo? Absolutely the latter, 100% the latter. It's not even a argument. Look at what people defer to. When you see Twitter dunks get like 200K likes, what do those Twitter dunks contain? Rationed arguments? People saying stuff like, no, you're bad, no, you're evil? No, it's always one of two things. Either you're weird or this you. Those are the only two types of dunks that make it all the way up to the top, man. Triple platinum. Wow, Benjamin, that was an excellent point the last 15 times you made it too. Thank you. That's great. One of the most popular tweets is a person making a suicide joke about Elon Musk. Yep, it was a great one. Just saw this with Derek Guy's big ass shoes tweet. Again, people don't want arguments. People want rhetoric. That's how you pull people over. Arguments are well thought out, well structured, cohesive points backed up and supported by evidence. An argument isn't just saying no you or this you or whatever. An argument is hypothesis, supporting arguments, like you build an argument. An argument is something you have to make a case for. It's a dissertation read. It's something that you have to structure appropriately. Who has time for this shit in politics? You do that in the background and you support it and refer to it with rhetoric. So feels over reals. People vote based on feels. If you think otherwise, then you're delusional. You're deluding yourself. What you should do is build the reels, build a temple of the reels, build the arguments. But when it comes to stuff like debate, when it comes to stuff like TV ads, when it comes to stuff like Twitter dunks, the most you should do is reference or refer to the reels while engaging in a feels-based argument. Otherwise, every Twitter dunk would just be somebody reading out how you're factually incorrect for making the statement that you did. Like, when has that ever been what goes triple platinum, man? Like, here's a hypothetical Democrat attack ad. Did you know that Donald Trump was incorrect when in these 17 ways during his debate? Here are the 17 facts he got wrong. Da 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 da. Okay, goodbye. Boom. Wow, real convincing, man. Drop $2 million for that TV slot only to convince who? Nobody? You convinced me to vote Republican for how boring that one was. It's not entirely feels-based. It is real that Republicans are freaks and should be made fun of for it. There are some brain-dead people against the weird thing. I really would not take electoral advice from people like Joy Behar, okay? These crusty-ass liberals, I would not go with that. Isn't that alienating the voter like Hillary did? I feel like the it's weird bit would be more pointed on the legislators rather than the voter. Who cares? First of all, these are largely directed against the, like broadly, they're being directed against Republican public officials and pundits. But even then, sure, make fun of Republican voters. Yeah. Making fun of people for being cringe is a great way for the weak-willed to be moved over. Also, you're not really trying to move over the people who are so far gone that they're represented in those attack ads. You're trying to move over the people who agree with you that those people are freaks. There are a lot of people who don't vote who agree that those people are freaks. Also, the children of parents who are like that, relatives, or people who are maybe more on the fence but realize that more and more the Trump camp is turning into like a gaggle of fascistic dictatorial morons, you know? There are people who can be pulled over by this. See? Dude, it works. Being obsessed with repressing women is goofy. Trying to watch what LGBTQ people do all the time is abnormal. Punishing people who don't have biological offspring is creepy. It's an incel platform, dude. It's super weird and people need to know. This is pretty weak, too, as dunks go, but even that gets 156K likes. And I'm not saying that real-world politics is what gets you Twitter dunks. I'm saying that real-world politics is exactly what gets you Twitter dunks. Seriously, we've forgotten this. The Republican messaging platform and the way Republicans have behaved on Twitter have been one-to-one for years now. Seriously. The Republican strategy for like outreach or the way they talk about people, the way Trump talks about people, basically indistinguishable from the kind of like weirdly incoherent fascistic shitposting hate mongering that you see on social media. The internet and real life are both like platforms for communication, you know? And if you see like low energy liberal policy wonkery get no attention on social media, I promise you it gets no attention in real life either. A lot of people aren't partisan on the lefties, don't get this. This rhetoric works. The people most opposed to this behavior are the like centrist liberals who genuinely think that we need to be limited by civility politics, even though it's been nothing but a you know, like a kneecap to us for years and years and years. And they think that what the American people, what the median voter really wants is like banal policy wonkery. Hey, how effective has Biden's strategy for the past 3 years of him going like, and we did this policy and the percentage went up and the number went up. Yeah, we had a you know, a wave of inflation, but because of the policy I did, the policy changed the thing and the number changed, and now the policy did a different thing. Has that won anyone over? Honestly. Even Donald Trump doesn't do that. Donald Trump just like vaguely alludes to narratives. Donald Trump will just go like, we made America great, but now we're gonna make it greater. You know, like he doesn't talk, he doesn't get like, he focuses on the narrative, stuff that his voter base can sort of repeat, regurgitate, you know? Fixate on. Probably not, Posadas John. Vibes is greater than policy. When it comes to campaign speeches, yes. Oh, and by the way, you can go listen to campaign speeches from like every president ever, and it's going to be the same as what I've said. Go listen to JFK speak. Go listen to FDR speak, you know? You think FDR won 4 terms in office because he'd go up there and he said, and in 1937, we passed this bill that did this, and it was good, and there were problems, but then we fixed it. No! They were dropping firebombs back then, and not just on Japan. They were dropping that shit on the campaign trail. They were rizzing folks up, arguably more than we do today. Exactly, Annie, exactly. Obama won by massive margins, and he didn't talk policy, not really. I'm rambling, but I believe so strongly in this that it's like super important to me. I'm probably going to make a million other videos that kind of relate to this, but I just, and by the way, I've talked about this for years now. Everything, the importance of mocking fascists, the importance of like fixating on rhetoric when it comes to like campaign trail stuff, and the ability to change people's minds being more pointing out the fact that their heroes are cringe than like delivering the argument itself. The argument is supposed to be the underlying foundation on which you build that rhetoric, you know? It's not supposed to be the rhetoric itself. But I will say this, okay? Which do you think is going triple platinum? Which do you think is getting more positive attention, okay? Someone on Twitter is being transphobic. They're calling a trans woman a man or something cringe like that, okay? And another person, a left-leaning person, quotes them. What do you think is going to get more attention, okay? A quote tweet in which they say, actually, according to a wide plurality of medical institutions, transgender women are in fact women. Gender is separate from sex. Da 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 da. Or, hey, you're a pedophile. This you, and it's a quote tweet. It's a screenshot of them from 2 years ago defending like Lolicon or whatever. What do you think's going triple platinum, folks? This you? Honestly, even quote tweeting was something like you're a weirdo freak. Stop talking about other people like that. Like literally that would, we're talking by like several standard deviations of engagement here. People want the snappy response. People want narratives to feel good about. If people already agree with you, they already agree with you. If someone already agrees with what you're saying, a little dry list of, oh, you know, trans people are recognized in these medical institutions, that's not going to do anything for them. They already know that. That's just information. That's just a component of an argument that already exists in their mind. They want dunks. They want energy. Matt Walsh lost a lot of popularity when the left pointed out he's a freak. That's true, man. There's basically like a direct, every time you get this like woo of the right-wing grift cycle, the point at which things start to go downhill is when people realize that they're freaks. He a fan, you know? It happened with Crowder. It happened with Matt Walsh. The high point for Matt Walsh was right when they found all those old videos of him in the car talking about the fertility of 16-year-old girls. And after that, woo! And now how often do you hear about Matt Walsh, dude? I saw him tweet the other day. People were ratioing the out of him with images of his weird little baby plush of him as a baby with a diaper on or whatever. Nobody gives a anymore. That's the end point. People are interesting until they become cringe to associate with, and then woo. We got to move on from this talking point, man. We have to move on from this talking point, okay? Keep calling them weird. Keep calling them freaks. This is not feels over reals. The reals are the foundation upon which you build the feels. You have to understand the appropriate time to employ these arguments. If somebody wants to have their mind changed, you can supply them with an incredible amount of information to support the validity of your points. When I talk about anything I make an argument about, when it comes to like the validity of trans people or racial relations or immigration or the economy or whatever else, in my head, in documents, I have arguments that I could construct, but they take time and charitability to listen to. If you're at a point where the other person's just jeering at you and throwing insults or slurs or whatever, you think they're going to sit down for an argument? You win the rhetoric game, and then you bring people back to your cool foundation, your fortress built of arguments, you know? You can do it. Would you say all conservatives are freaky? Yes. The conservative culture war talking points that are mainlining their campaign efforts right now are innately creepy. The obsession with children and sex and banning abortion and contraception and controlling your life, it's innately freaky. It's built on male insecurity and chauvinism and white supremacy and a very poor understanding of basically every social and scientific field imaginable. It's innately freaky. There is no such thing as the like super suave, intelligent conservative who manages to push all these talking points without being weird. I mean, Donald Trump is their front man. He's literally a convicted rapist and pedophile. Like, their front man was a close friend of Epstein's. That's their main guy. And I genuinely think that Kamala Harris should be working towards the big one, which is just calling him a pedophile. That's what I want. She needs to build up to that, okay? Or at the very least, like, friend of Epstein, you know, if she, because, you know, if she doesn't want to get embroiled in the court shenanigans of a claimed libelous pedophile accusation, you know, you can just say factually, oh yeah, you're like in Epstein's records 57 times. There were like several testimonies against you. You were a close friend of his. You were bragging about how both of you like young girls. Sexual insecurity is the root point of fascism, Busy Mark. What about Shapiro? I talked about this last stream, but I genuinely think that Ben Shapiro is going to have a longevity. The main reason Shapiro's fallen off is because he's a Jew, and he's not the same kind of hyper-fascistic monster that a lot of the other, like, Daily Wire frontrunners are. The fact that the right wing is anti-Semitic is actually holding him back. Same with Dennis Prager. Well, Dennis Prager is a freak. Dennis Prager was writing articles about like raping women and how his wife shouldn't be mad that he's checking out other girls and so on. Okay. But honestly, genuinely, Ben Shapiro is one of the least freak individuals on the right wing, like pundit cycle, you know? It's if Ben Shapiro was more fascistic, he'd probably be more of a freak. The fact that he's less fascistic and the fact that he's Jewish prevents him from that's what's keeping him out of the inner circle right now, you know? True, but I'm not saying he's good. Oh, I know this guy. This is the guy who got into an argument with me. And then I said something to the effect of, why don't you argue with someone with a platform your own size? And he said he didn't want to argue with me because he thought I'd argue in bad faith. The All That Remains music guy works for Tim Pool. Remember when Dennis Prager defended Lolicon in an interview? Oh, yeah! I forgot about that. Dennis Prager, a like 60-year-old man, literally was defending Lolicon.
Would you use the word evil of animated child pornography? Because I certainly would.
No, I would use evil only with behavior. That's where we might differ, forgetting the sex issue. You can't be evil. You didn't do evil if you thought evil. You did evil if you committed. If I'm masturbating to animated pictures of pornography, I'm not doing something evil. That's correct.
Yeah, I think that's despicable. Yeah.
Really?
Keep in mind, Prager calls literally everything evil. He'll say that you're evil if you affirm the gender of your trans child. He'll say that you're evil if you promote the validity of being a homosexual, like that it's a fine thing to be. He calls everything evil. So then he's, whoa, hold on now. Lolicon, I don't think that's evil, actually. You know, it's just like carve out a very specific exception. Not to mention his logic for why it wouldn't be evil would also apply to actual CP. Because his argument was you need to do, not think evil. So that wouldn't just apply to Lolicon, right? Weird how inconsistent. Yeah, just weird how they carve out those exceptions, huh?